Weather Painter's actually making another guest appearance here in Nekroz, showing the world what a power-up they got with Diviner actually entering back into the fray. Smash the and crab out, subscribe buttons so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. So, Weather Painters, ladies and gentlemen. This deck took a surprising second place finish here, and this was Marty DeHaan's list. Start things off here. So we have triple copies of Ash Blossom, Enjoy Spring, triple copies of the Dimension Shifter, one copy of the Weather Painter Aurora, two copies of Cloud, we have one copy of Rain, triple copies of Snow, one copy of Sun, triple copies of Thunder, triple copies of Pot of Duality, triple copies of Pot of Extravagance, one Rainy Canvas, triple copies of Snowy Canvas, with triple copies of everybody's favorite Anti-Spell Fragrance, two copies of Dogmatica Punishment, one copy Macrocosmo, one Skill Drain, triple copies of the Weather Rainbowed Canvas, and triple copies of Thundery Canvas. Wrapping up the main deck here. Extra deck here, we have triple copies of the Weather Painter Rainbow, one copy Unicorn, two copies of Phoenix, one Cerberus, one Starving Venom, one Trifovertum, one Dragostopelia, one Muddy Mudmud, two copies of Venentis, one Earth Golem, and one Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. If you're like, why are we playing this? This is just your giant fling target at your opponent. You yeet it off a punishment. That or you can play the five-headed dragon. Honestly, it just comes down to player preference, man. 4,500 versus 5,000. It's whichever one that you feel you're going to need. We also have one Pankratops, triple copies of Phantasme, triple copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, one Call by the Grave, two Super Polymerization, triple copies of Dimensional Barrier, one more Punishment because we just weren't packing enough in the main deck here, and one copy of Imperial Order, wrapping up the main deck here for Weather Painters. Nothing too crazy to say about that. You guys know why this deck does good, right? You just open up your floodgates and just win the game, right? Like, super easy peasy. All right. Next up here, we have Logan Woodrum's first place list out of locals. And yes, we are playing, for the first time in a very long time, I can say that we are playing Nekroz Dogmatica. And yes, we finally do get the chance to play Diviner in this deck. This deck has struggled for so long. It was supposed to be one of the most anticipated decks out of Rise, and it just kind of fell off. But now, I believe it was 25 people. He ended up taking first place out of locals with this. So, we have triple copies of Ash Blossom Enjoy Spring, two copies of Diviner of the Herald, one copy of Ecclesia the Virtuous, one copy of Fleur de Lis, one Maximus, triple copies of Gamma, one copy of Shriek, and one copy of the Driver. Then we have triple copies of Nekroz of Brionic, two copies of Colossus, one copy of Trishula, triple Unicorn, and two copies of Valk. Spells here we have one Call by the Grave, triple copies of Nadir Servant, one copy of Cycle, two copies of Kaleidoscope, two copies of Nekroz Mirror, triple copies of Preparation of Rites, one Rhoda, and triple copies of the Fling Poo Poo at our opponent. The card's so good. Then we have one copy of Frigite, one copy of Almirage, one Totally Awesome, one Sky Thunder, two copies of Abyss Dweller, and then we have one copy of the Wind Pegasus Ignister, one Omega, triple copies of Herald. Remember, Herald's what makes this deck go round, honestly. We have one Titanclad, and triple copies of Venentis. Side deck here we have two Lancia, two copies of D-Shifter, triple copies of Inspector Border, triple copies of Nibiru, triple copies of Cosmic Cyclone, one Arby's Feather Duster, and one Red Reboot, wrapping up the first place list here for this. Not too dang bad, all things considered. And hey, you don't even need three Diviners for this. You just need two in a Dogmatica package. Yikes. Next up here, we have Altergeist. This was Brandon Bickley's first place out of a VIP qualifier here as we head on into the future YCS here, which means that Altergeist is making stirrings right now as we're heading on into the future events here, which means, hey, if you're really worried about like needing a good deck to play against the meta, always go back to old reliable here. Altergeist is always going to be that old reliable friend that you can call up, and he can help you out sometimes. So we have one copy of Kunguri, triple copies of Marionetter, triple copies of Milozeek, triple copies of Multifaker, one copy of Zilguidos, and then two Lancia, 2 Ash Blossoms, and 1 Pinkertops. That's all you really need for your main deck, alright? Super easy stuff. We have 1 Mystic Mine, 1 Necro Valley, triple copies Pot of Extravagance, 1 Pot of Prosperity with 1 Manifestation, 2 Protocol, 2 copies of Punishment, triple copies of Infinite Permanence, 1 Metaverse, triple copies of Personal Spoofing, triple copies of Solemn Steerike, and triple copies of Torrential Tribute. Wrapping up the main deck here. Extra deck there with 2 copies of Link Rebo, 1 Unicorn, 1 Phoenix, 2 Artemis, triple copies of Hextia, 1 copy of Access Code, 1 Ad Ignister, 1 Omega, 1 copy of Quintet, and 2 copies of Venentis. I'm really glad to see that my friend Quintet keeps showing up and doing weird things in these decks. Inside deck here we have 2 Alpha, 2 copies of Godarla, 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, 1 Harvey's Feather Duster, 2 copies of Evenly Matched, 1 Imperial Order, triple copies of Solemn Judgment, and 2 copies of Summon Limit here, wrapping up another interesting take on the anti-meta game, actually, and this is actually kind of nice. The more diversity in things that you can see from these decks, the more that you see players like trying to counterpick the meta, I think the better off we end up being. Keep in mind it's a very heavy Tri-Brigade place. It's kind of where Necro Valley kind of comes in. Next up here, we have Unchained. This was Tyler Bryan's top 8 list for everybody, and we all know that Unchained is like the super pick when it comes to anti-meta. It's the universal best floating engine in the entire game. I'm going to stick by that statement. When you can have a deck that floats as powerfully as this one does, it doesn't surprise me to see how well this deck is stuck around in the meta. So we have 2 copies of Abominable Unchained Soul, triple copies of D-Shifter, 2 copies of Phantasme, 1 copy of Lava Golem, 1 copy of Unchained Soul, Disaster. Then we have triple copies of Aruha, triple copies of Rakia, and triple copies of Surama. Then we have triple copies of Prison, triple copies of Pot of Extravagance, triple copies of the Abominable Chamber of the Unchained, triple copies of Escape, triple copies of Needle Sailing. Hey look, it's another very good card. Triple copies of Solemn Steerike, and triple copies of Torrential Tribute here, wrapping up the main deck here. Extra deck down here, we have triple Soul Rage, triple copies of Soul of Anguish, triple copies of Unchained Soul of Abomination, and we have 1 Zeroboros, 1 Trisbania, 1 Bomber Dragon, with 1 Unicorn, 1 Soldier of Chaos, and 1 Access Machine. And then we have 1 Phantasme, 1 Lava Golem, triple copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance, 2 copies of Goes and Match, 2 copies of Heavy Storm Duster, 1 Imperial Order, 2 copies of Rivalry of Warlords, and triple copies of Solemn Judgment here, wrapping up another floating deck. Keep in mind that Lava Golem here, yeah, it does take up your whole fun shenanigans for your normal summon, but like, this deck doesn't care. Like, everything's a special in its book. So basically being able to hand your opponent the Lava Golem and start that full combo is what you want to see when it comes to this deck. Alright, so do not underestimate the power of Lava Golem in this list. Being like, oh, I don't want to play Lava Golem. You have to. Alright, I'm sorry to say that, but this card really does get you out of a lot of your crappy situations. Alright, and the last list here we have is, oh look, this is Thomas Sparling's list, made top 8, and as you can see, this is a Battle Lord version. Alright, we've seen this kind of coming out, what was it? Was it Germany? Or was it the Netherlands Extravaganza? So one of the two was always kind of messing around this. It's kind of cool to see this here. So, we have 2 copies of Lancia, triple copies of Diviner of the Heralds, triple copies of Alpha Thuban, 1 copy of Alteas, 2 copies of Eltanin, triple copies of Albaya, 2 copies of Ava, 1 copy of Farfa, interesting, triple copies of Herald, 1 copy of Ben 10, 1 Draconius, 1 Herald of Ultimateness, 2 Fools, triple copies of Battle Lord, then we have 1 Called by the Grave, 2 copies of Cyber Emergency, 2 Fafnir, triple copies of Nova, 1 Foolish Barrel, 1 Instant Fusion, 2 Matanas, 2 Preparation, 1 Revendread Evolution, 1 Terraforming, and 1 Werarthro. Then we have 1 Relinquished Anima, 1 Link Rebo, 1 Unicorn, 1 IP, 1 Curious Boy, 1 Boral Sword, 1 Apollosa, 1 Assembled Nightingale, 1 Mu Beta, 1 copy of Sky Thunder, 1 Beatrice, with 2 copies of Herald, 1 Dawn Drankster, and the 1 Millennium Eyes. Then we have 1 Lancia, triple Droll, triple copies of Phantasme, triple Dark Will No More, 1 Arby's Feather Duster, triple Twin Twisters, and 1 copy of Red Reboot, wrapping up a very interesting chunk of deck profiles for everybody. So what do you think about this chunk of decks. Please leave a comment down below to me what you guys think. I always look forward to reading the comments from you guys on these lists, and I will see your beautiful faces back here later on the day with some more colossal content. Peace out, guys. Have a good one. Thank you, patrons, for making the ride never truly end. Without you guys' support, well, I would probably be doing Truffle Shuffle videos for a living. Guys, please check out VanCool40 for all of your Cardfight Vanguard content brought to you by MCool40. And if you are looking to pick up singles, check out mcoolgames.com for your trading card game needs. Thanks for watching, everybody.